Okay, in this lesson I'm going to show you how to use Explain Everything. Explain Everything is developed to do what the title says, explain whatever it is you want to teach about, whether it be whiteboard, bring in an existing PowerPoint, Keynote, website. It'll bring it into this environment, record your voice over it, and allow you to export it to share with students as a video. First I'm going to show is here's the Explain Everything screen. On the upper left corner there's a new project area. You can do blank project, would be like a whiteboard initially. Import from Evernote, Dropbox. If you're wanting to import a PDF file you've done on your desktop or laptop, or you want to import a Keynote or PowerPoint. Import photos as well from your local iPad. Import Box, that's a iCloud type of application. And then WebDAV is another iCloud. So we're going to go ahead and start with the blank project and show a couple of the items here first before we get started. On the upper left corner you've got Add a Page. Then we've got this one here allows us to view the pages that are available. I'm going to go and click the first one, which is Add a Page. You'll notice now on the bottom we now have page 1 of 2. We're on page 1. If I take and click on this arrow here, it'll bring me to page 2. I'll go back to page 1. Then this icon here shows all the pages available and we can rearrange them there. I'll click on that to show you the slide sorter view. You can click and hold any of these and allows you to move them around. I can hit this 2+ and it'll duplicate a slide. Hit the red X, it'll delete a slide. So that's a slide sorter view. Next is a pencil, which allows you to write. I'll click and hold that one. Select color, thickness, and pen tip. And I can write up my text here. In order to select another object you've already put on Explain Everything, like this red arrow, you've got to go back to the object that created it and click on it once, which is the 4th icon down, the arrow icon here. Now I can click on that to select that arrow icon that I just created earlier. So you have to click on the icon that created it to use it. The X icon on the toolbar here on the left, the circle with the X on it, allows you to click on an object you've created and delete it. I'll do it here on the arrow. Notice how it's shaking there and it's got the red X. I can delete that one. go ahead and re-add another arrow here. A little bit bigger one this time. And then with any object like I'm doing here, you can move it around quite easily on your screen. Any of the objects. The fourth icon down is a presentation icon for a pointer device. If I click on that, I have different options for pointer. From just the red normal pointer that you usually use in a classroom to a hand. So if I select the hand one, go back and click on that again. Now when I press and hold my finger, or if I'm using a stylus, it actually moves around the screen, as you can see there, to where I'm wanting to highlight a certain area. Okay, and that's kind of nice. Already went over this. This is the arrow icon, but also there's other available to you. You've got line, arrow, star, box, and circle that you can put on any of your slides. The text box icon is just that. You can draw a text and write it in. You can center it, write justify it. Click on the green checkbox, and then you're now allowed to move that around your screen. You can pinch and make it grow and move it any which way you want to on your text, on your screen here for slide 1. Next is ability to insert items. Let's go ahead and look at that. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and insert. You can insert from photo roll, camera, Dropbox, Evernote, Box, WebDAV. You can insert a web browser, insert a document from Dropbox, Evernote, Box, or WebDAV. So let's go do photo roll first, just to show you the easiness of this. I'm going to go ahead and select a screenshot from one of my classes this last week, on assignments possibly, on week 1. There we go, week 2 there. Go ahead and bring that in. So I'm just bringing in an image here, and then I could actually highlight that image. You'll notice when I move the arrow, it's going underneath the picture I just put in there. Way to fix that is this icon here that I just highlighted on the left side allows you to tell what you want to do with that object you just created or just clicked on. Bring to front, bring forward, send to back, send forward. I want to bring it to front. Now when I click on that, well, that was actually a text box. Let's try the arrow here. I'm going to bring that to front. Now you'll notice when I bring the arrow over that picture, that now I have the ability to go and select different items of that picture. And again, in the classroom, I can blow up or shrink down certain areas. I can actually have multiple pictures here that I want to go over, and then just highlight those areas. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that text there. By hitting the X here, I can actually come over here again, get rid of the text box I don't want. Sometimes you do have to click on this X a few times to get it to take. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and blow up this picture here. I'm pinching it to blow it up. And I'm going to take my arrow, pretend I'm highlighting this in the classroom for week 2 on an assignment. This icon here, which is next to the last one, right above the magnifying glass icon, allows you to undo what you just did. And so, for instance, an example would be I'll shrink down that image, and if I do an undo, it'll bring it back to where it was. The magnifying glass is just that. If I click on the magnifying glass and click and hold on an area of the screen that I want, it'll actually let me move the entire screen and zoom in on it, the entire screen. And I'm having to pinch here with my fingers to do this. But you can actually click on that, and again it lets you move all the objects at one time and grow them. And again, this will be an all object type of selection for that one. Let's go to page 2, and I'm going to show you how to insert a web browser into this page. And then we'll look at the bottom icons we've not went over yet. I'm going to go ahead and click on the icon here on the left on inserting image, inserting other, and document. And let's go ahead and do a inserting of web browser. I can go and insert a web page here. It could be a course site, it could be a picture on a website, an article that you're wanting to highlight in class. And what's great about it is it's actually a real browser that's embedded here in Explain Everything. And so you can bring up a Wikipedia site, go over that in the class, or any other type of site. And what's nice about it is, since it's embedded here in Explain Everything, if I click away from this object, just press away from this object, I can then use the pencil tool or whatever to highlight certain items on the page. I can use, again, the arrow tools or the arrow tool to highlight a certain section, possibly. So again, that's how to insert a web page into Explain Everything. I'm going to go ahead and do a third page insert here to show you inserting a Keynote or PowerPoint file from Dropbox. Before I do that, let's show you how to get that Keynote into Dropbox first. And what we're going to use is an application called Keynote within the iPad. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up Keynote. I'm going to use an existing file for one of my courses. And I'm going to email it to myself, open it up within the email, share it with Dropbox, and then import that into Explain Everything. So the little wrench tool here in Keynote on the upper right corner, I'm going to click on. I'm going to go to Share and Print, Email Presentation. Notice the options I have to share it with. Now, size-wise, graphics-wise, I would suggest if it's a Keynote presentation to export it as a Keynote presentation. But if you were sharing it with someone that did not have Keynote, you can actually do a PDF version as well, or PowerPoint. But I'm going to go and do a Keynote. It's exporting the document and creating it in order for me to email it to myself. Now there are other services you can use, like WebDAV is one of them, to do the same thing, but it costs money to do that, so I'm trying to show you a free option. So I'm just going to put my email in the to field, not change anything else. It puts in the subject line the name of the file, attaches it. I'm going to go ahead and send it. Take just a second to send it to myself. Go to my email. Give it a second here. There it is. Go ahead and click on it. It brings up in the viewer and my email on the iPad. I'm using Gmail here. If I click on it once, you'll notice on the upper right corner there's an arrow that shows up. If I click on that arrow, I can open up in Keynote, which I don't want to do because I want it to open up and explain everything. So I want to go to the Open In area. And these are all the applications I could open this Keynote into. I want to scroll down and find Explain Everything. And now you'll see it's actually started a brand new session in Explain Everything, and it's now importing this Chapter 1 Keynote file into a new Keynote session. Once this is through, I'm going to show you how in Keynote you can record, for instance, your Keynote session or your presentation to your class, and at the end of that session, send it to YouTube for students to see later. And that YouTube video can be embedded on your site or just a link in your site, however you want to do it. So it's just about done here, importing. And what you'll notice, it's importing and loading one page at a time into Explain Everything. So you should have all the slides. It brings the slides in as a picture, I believe, per slide. And so you don't have to recreate your PowerPoints or your keynotes. You can import them directly once they're in Dropbox. Okay, so you'll notice slides 1 of 54 on this, so 54 slides. I wanted to show you here how to begin to record. Right here is the red button. If I click this red button, you'll notice the recording begins. The recording is actually recording this slide with my voice. And when I'm done recording that slide, I can then hit the red button again and it stops. Go to the next slide. Notice the recording begins. We'll go to the next button and now it's previewing what I just recorded. With my voice. And when I'm done recording that slide, I can then so this will record it, this will play it. Okay? I'm going to go to the next slide. And the way I recommend using this is recording it per slide. If you don't record it per slide, you can keep it running, but it does build the video file to be quite large and it can take a while to export it. So you can explain a slide, stop it, but again, I'll just show you here real quick how to do that. So this is a slide you're on, we'll pretend for your class. You hit the record button. You begin explaining this slide. Once you explain this slide, you go ahead and just hit the red button again, the red circle there. Advance to the next slide. Now if I do not hit this red button per slide, it's going to continue on till I'm done, till I hit this again. So if I'm on slide 5 of 54, if I advance to slide 6 of 54, it's still recording. You'll notice how the recording starts over though when the slide is advanced. So I'm on slide 6 of 54. Notice the timer here is 13, 14, 15. If I go to slide 7, the timer starts over again. So the audio is added per slide. And again, just a recommendation. You don't have to do this, but I do recommend to save video space and exporting time to make sure when you're recording a slide, when you're through discussing it on that slide, to hit the record button again. An example would be in a classroom when you're explaining a slide and you maybe do not want to be recorded all the discussion about that slide on the podcast. But if you do want it included, you can continue that recording as it goes on. Okay? Or it might be a case to where you're on a slide, you've explained a certain area on that slide or the entire slide, and you do an impromptu lab. You would stop your recording, do whatever lab or group assignment, come back, advance to the next slide, and begin recording again. So we'll pretend that we're done with the presentation. You go ahead and hit the red button for the slide. Go all the way over to the right corner, the down arrow, and name this project and save it. You notice it's saving it. If you hit the home button, it's take you back to the screen now and show you Classroom 1 was 1 minute and 31 seconds. If I open that up again, I can press and hold the play button, and notice that little yellow one comes up. If I hit the yellow one, it'll play throughout the entire, whatever slides I've recorded, basically, it'll play throughout and stop at the end. Okay? Now I wanted to show you towards the right to export this. It's the third icon from the right, the little movie icon. I can export this to my photo roll, YouTube, email, Dropbox, Evernote box, and WebDAV. The way I've used it is photo roll. YouTube, you would have to set up a YouTube account, which doesn't take long, going to youtube.com. You can email it to yourself. The downside to emailing is most emails have a certain size that they let you send. Dropbox, that actually is a newer feature. Most of you have used Dropbox already, and basically just sends it to Dropbox, and then you can share it from Dropbox to your students. So for this example here, I'm going to go ahead and just show you how to, for instance, send it to a Dropbox account. You'll notice here it shows you a message that says, please do not exit the program. It may take several minutes. It's rendering the video and uploading the video to Dropbox. That was one of the reasons why I told you to stop the video recording per slide when you're done, because the video could be quite large if you have this many slides like I have on this one, 54 slides, and the audio part actually is the beefiest part of a video. It takes up the most space. And so I learned early on to just make a habit of stopping the recording when you're done recording, just not letting it continue to record. So once it gets through compressing and it finishes the compressing, then it's going to send that to Dropbox in this case, and then tell me when it's done. While it's doing this, I do recommend having the iPad plugged in to power. You'll notice here it tells me where I want to save it to. So I'm going to go ahead and select the folder I want it to go into. And I'm going to rename it to Class 1. And I made a short video here. As you can imagine, a longer video would definitely take longer to do this. It's now uploaded successfully into Dropbox. And it's updated my Dropbox on my Mac and also on Explain Everything on the iPad. So I'm going to hit the home button here, exit out of Explain Everything, and go into Dropbox to show that file, to show you how I share it, to take it all the way to the end so you can kind of know how from Keynote, you have your file in Keynote, to exporting it to Dropbox, to importing it to Explain Everything, recording it and Explain Everything, exporting it to Dropbox, and now sharing it with your students. So let me go to the iPad class folder. There's the class1.mp4, 2.1 megabytes, modified 54 seconds ago. I'm going to click on that. And it should be loading here on the right side. And start playing. I'm going to pause it just to click and hold that. Now you should have, it looks like to the right of or left of the star, it looks like a little paper clip. It's actually a link icon. Click on that link icon. Notice I can email the link or I can copy the link. So for instance, if I hit copy the link, I can put that link into my course page. If I select email the link, it'll actually start an email session, and there's the exact link here to the page or to the video that I just recorded. So that concludes how to set up and use Explain Everything. Just a real quick recap, the applications I used for this was Keynote, and in Keynote created the presentation, or it might be an existing presentation you have. Click on the wrench, share and print, email that to yourself. Within the email, you open up that Keynote. On the upper right corner, there's an arrow. You go to Open In, go to Explain Everything, and then in Explain Everything, you do your recording, and make sure and only hit the red recording button per slide as you need it. When you're done recording, save your recording, and then finally hit the export icon and export it via Dropbox, YouTube, photo roll. So that concludes Explain Everything and setting up and using it in a classroom.